afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of A Little Perspective with Angela and myself, Samyuktha. We are here with Mike Thornton, who is going to give us a really great episode on how we can be self-advocates for the disability community and obviously, for ourselves, and how we can make sure our voices are heard and that we can constantly strive to have our needs met. So, Angela, why don't you take it away and introduce our guest today?
Yeah, absolutely. So Michael and I, my sister was a mutual friend, and we have not had the chance to meet in person, but we have interacted quite a bit online, and I consider him a huge ally in our arena, and it has been wonderful to see the work that he's doing. It's very inspiring to see the self-advocacy that he does and the way that he goes about things, because self-advocacy is sometimes harder than advocacy, because it's easier to support others than it is to support ourselves sometimes. So super excited to have Mike on to talk about his experiences as an adult, and then growing up with a disability, and then the ways that he is working to impact the greater good as well. So thank you so much, Mike, for being here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you very much. Hi, I'm Michael, or Mike Thornton. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a self-advocate, but I don't call myself necessarily a self-advocate as when I advocate for others, people with disabilities. I'm a self-advocate when I talk about things that help me, but I am an advocate for all people when I advocate in the disability community. I was growing up, I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy due to spinal meningitis as a baby. But as I've learned from a program that I met Angela's sister and Cindy through, called Leadership Education on Neurodevelopmental and Related Disabilities, or LEND, as we like to use the short name for it. I've learned more about myself as probably someone on the autism spectrum, or as we like to call autistic. I know some people say people with autism, others say autistics. So I think it's up to each person on that aspect. I've been involved in advocacy pretty much, I guess. I don't consider it my whole life, but because I really didn't find my voice until about 15 years ago, when I was in college in a writing class that I was taking, where my professor, Dr. Isom, asked us to write our story. And so I wrote my story about being called the R word in school. And we all know what the R word is. And my story's name was Sticks and Stones, and I wrote it, and that kind of began my journey into advocacy. I had volunteered at summer camps and stuff, but I really couldn't find my niche in advocacy until then. And I've kind of learned that I like to write, I like to meet people, but I like to write about things. Don't write as often as I should, but I do write. And that's where I've learned. And I've also learned as an advocate, even though our program called the Arkansas Alliance for Disability Advocacy is funded through the Governor's Council for Developmental Disabilities, I'm an all means all kind of person, meaning that if I advocate for one group, I need to advocate for all groups of people, because we all matter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's a big part of why Samyuktha and I kind of expanded this podcast into disabilities versus just dwarfism, because there's so much power in us joining together as one group with the same essential needs to be heard, to be accommodated, to be, advocated for. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your current position in the job that you are doing now?
Sure. I am the Self-Advocate Network Development Project Coordinator. Don't you love them long names? Short acronyms, SAND. And my position is to help bring awareness to people who have developmental disabilities and others in order to find their voice to advocate. Some may never have spoken on about themselves, and some may have spoken up, but they just don't know how to do it totally effectively, and they need someone else to come along beside them and help them out, and that's what my position is, to come along beside others and help them be able to speak more effectively, learn how to speak up, and learn how to um, set goals or set ways in order to know that they can advocate. Some of them may have major goals, some may just be minor, but in the minor goals, when you learn how to, and get them done, then you figure out, oh, I can do this, and then you can start setting major goals, life goals for yourself. So that's kind of what my position is about, and it's a lot more, but we're still trying to get it rebooted after everything. So that's the problem. The last 2 or 3 years have really slowed it down, but but hopefully we're getting it rebooted and getting it going again. So
Thank you for sharing that, Mike. I know this is kind of like a broad question when I ask, like, what sorts of goals like do you set with your clients? Is it okay if I say clients, or like what do you prefer? Like when
I call them self-advocates.
self-advocates, yes. Yeah, of
What's
course.
funny is the agencies and stuff say consumers and stuff. It's like, no, they're self-advocates, or they're they're advocates. It's like, stop thinking of people as consumers, so but my thing is, my like the other day, I have a presentation that is on self-advocacy and self-advocacy and self-awareness. And the other day, I wasn't able to do the presentation because the place didn't have internet and stuff. So it's like, okay, let's just talk, so, and we were able to do a lot better, I think, without the presentation, on just being open and talk. We talked for about 30 to 40 minutes in about different things. One of the things was on goal setting, and I shared with one of the self advocates on how they can learn how they can set a goal on learning how to drive, and that's a major step, learning how to drive. I have a driver's license, but we're all safer if I don't drive, if I take an Uber. But I thought that's a major thing, so I said I helped them understand a little bit on how to goal set, so, and advocate for themselves, so I hope I did well, because that's the thing about self-advocacy, learning what you want to do, figuring out or how to get there. It sometimes it's a major journey, sometimes, most of the time. So it's like, and sometimes you have people that say you can't do that. It's like, you just have to set the goal, and and listen and know what you can and can't do. Don't let other people tell you you can't, because they don't know you like you. So
Very true. Do you meet with them throughout? Like, say after the first meeting, the self-advocate comes to you, and then you set the goal of, like you said, for example, learning how to drive. Do you have touch points throughout the year, or like how many? How do you work with them to make sure that they are able to meet their goals, and like if they have questions, concerns along the way, because this is a journey for them. So you want to make sure that they're supported.
well, honestly, this was my first in-person event to do. So the idea is to go back at least once a month, or every few months, and talk with them. I'm hoping to be able to go back sometime next month, depending on my schedule and stuff, and talk more about about goal setting and stuff. Um, the the idea is to take from and go from self-advocacy, self-awareness to talk about goals, which we kind of went there anyway, to talk about how you can speak up for yourself, to learning about policy and how policy affects things, because every policy is disability policy, whether it's taxes, whether it's you know, transportation or housing, or environment, you know, or policy about marriage. It's disability policy. It's like intersectionality. Everything comes through. Disability goes through everything. So,
Oh,
so right now, the idea that the thing is to work on helping them how to set goals. I have a thing that I'm going to hopefully do next month that is an advocacy action plan. Talks about what they want to do, like it says I want to, and then they write out what they want to do, and then they talk about the information that they want to do, what needs to be done to start it, what they can complete when they will complete the action, what resources might they need to help with doing it, and who can help them, and that's kind of like an easy worksheet, and it also says on the bottom, things may change along the way, and that's all right, because
Yeah.
sometimes you get into something and you find out, oh, okay, that's not exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know? And you
Yeah.
don't have to stay on the same path,
Yeah.
So,
How has self-advocacy come to you? Like, how have you found this path?
oh joy. The first thing that I ever done self-advocate wise, I mean, well, I did some things here later on, but I consider the major thing was back in 2014 or 2015, I took a trip to Washington, D.C., which I had been there when I was in junior high school, way back when. I'm not saying when, but let's just say it was during Reagan's presidency. Um, but first thing, that was the first major thing that I'd done was go back to DC and go into the congressman and senator's offices and talk policy, talk about what matters in the disability community. And I've learned, to do that, you know, people want to hear. And also on the state level and city level, they want to hear from the people that they represent, They may not always do exactly as you asked to in educating them, but they want to hear what all sides and make an informed decision. But my thing is, anybody can do it. Yes, you may be scared, but if you are scared, I'll be glad to go with you and help you out.
Mm-hmm.
Just let you see how it's done, and then you can interact, tell your story, and policy begins with telling your story, why something matters to you, so.
So when talking about policy, I think often those of us who are not as involved in the policy level or feel like nobody cares or they're not listening to us, what would you say to that? Because I think that you bring a good point that there is power in utilizing your representatives, but often it can feel like a lost cause. So, what would your recommendations be to kind of get started with that if they don't have a mic to stand by their side?
Realize that, even if things do not go the way you want it to go, just telling your story, just speaking out, even, to people, you may talk to the congressman or the senator, or you may talk to a staffer. But if you talk to, and a lot of times if you talk to someone that's not your representative, they may get it, they may understand, and they might keep your story and your information in their file, and they may know when something comes up, they may call you and talk with you. But realize this, it doesn't matter, if, I mean, yes, you want things to go your way, but even if it doesn't, just by sharing your story to people, you accomplish the goal of advocating. You're not always going to be able to convince people in the way that you want it to go. But if you talk to one person, they understand, or they seem to understand, then that's all that matters, Yeah. And
Totally.
it's amazing how many times I've talked to people about where I work, and they say, "Oh, I know someone, with autism, or I have a family member that has this or that." It's like, okay, you never know who you'll connect with. So,
Do you have any success stories that you're willing to share with some of the self-advocates that you've worked with along the way? Just any stories of where like they've, went back to you and said like, "Hey, Mike, this is so great. I've learned so much of how to be a better self-advocate, and I was able to apply this and this and this and use my voice." Anything like?
well, to step out of this role into my other role as a self-advocate coordinator with the LEND program here, I've had many self-advocate trainees that have found their voice, or other trainees in the medical professions that may not have understood self-advocacy, or may have been a person with a disability in the medical deal that may not have understood that they, as a person with a disability, they can also advocate on that side. So I was, just to talk about the first time that I was the trainee in the program, I was scared to death, because I'd never been in a medical program, and I thought, why do they want a self-advocate in a medical program? But as I was in it and I learned about it, it's like, okay, this is why, and it's important that we're in it. And then I found out later that all the, that many of the trainees that were in the program came back and talked to the training director and told him, that they were amazed at my story about advocacy, and that, it's like I was amazed at learning more about the stuff in the on the other side, because it helps you to advocate better. I think that's the thing. When you learn about things that will help in everyone, whether it's genetic things or policy things or stuff like that, then you're a better advocate for yourself. But then you can help others find their voice, and you can also help the medical people understand, okay, this is how I can advocate for my patient, or my client, or the child that I'm working with, or the young adult, because we all matter. And I think the more that we get the new younger people trained to understand that, the better that the medical community will be towards people with disabilities, and differences, because they should start to understand. You may always have people that may not understand, but you have people in all areas of society that don't understand everything. So
What are your thoughts, Mike, on the ways that COVID has helped with self-advocacy, or even hurt self-advocacy?
oh gosh. One thing that positive that COVID has done is it's brought, more people into the area of being able to get online and connect with others that they might not have connected with. Um, it because some people can't afford to go out places, but I've seen people in not institutions, but in like um, community living centers and stuff, be able to get on Zoom and talk and share, especially like the self-advocacy resource technical assistance Zoom. That's every Thursday. Some people have been able to get on and just share. Um, that's a positive because it's opened up doors with stuff. The negative is that uh, for those who are sometimes people that love to get out and connect in person, like me, it's been real hard because I like to connect and talk with people, but in person now, yes, you can do that online, but there's nothing like being in the room with someone and just, talking with, sharing coffee or, with someone, just finding out about them, and so it's kind of been a weird double edged thing. Like, yes, it's great to connect online and I met more people on Zoom that I may not ever have met, in conferences. But when I see people that I know from conferences on Zoom and wish that I could just be with them and talk with them, it's like, oh joy, but that's a positive and negative. We become more connected, and yet somehow I wonder if we become less connected too.
Well, you're definitely an extrovert, that's for sure. I know that about you. And so I can see how an extrovert person with a disability would feel more stifled by some of the virtual stuff.
And and I say this, I think even the most introverted person has found out that they needed some human connection.
Connection. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So, you know, with with the influx of virtual opportunities, how would someone find those opportunities for their own community or their own, I don't know, area, not even necessarily area, because if it's virtual, it doesn't have to be local, but how do people find these opportunities to be able to make these connections?
Well, the most important thing, and since this is online, is to like search engine, look for like self-advocacy Zooms or virtual meetings, because not everyone uses Zoom. Some people use Google Meet or some people use other platforms, and that's one way in order to find a connection point. Um, Another thing is an organization, like I mentioned earlier, is called Self-Advocacy Resource Technical Assistance Center, or SARTAC, and they have recorded meetings online that they've done, and they also do a meeting every Thursday at noon Central Time or 1 o'clock Eastern, um, online, and the Zoom is listed on their website, and it's the same link every week, and you don't have to pre-register, and they have different things. Like this month, they've talked about Pride Month. They've talked about COVID. They tried to talk about COVID and what's going on with it at least once a month, once every other month. They also talk about different ways of telling things, like how to write things in plain language and how to, which or easy read. But that's the newest thing is easy read, which is basically single bullet point things that people can read in a row. Uh, yes, we all think bullet points are like a whole lot, but it makes it easier if you separate the lines, especially for people with autism or other developmental disabilities. Um, but they have different things. Sometimes they have people just do talents, because people have talents, whether it's singing, dancing, or playing drums. As my one of my former trainees, Shannon, loves to play drums, and she's done her drums on the Zoom, and it's that's a way of just connecting and having fun. I think you can connect and interact with people and have fun, and maybe even have talent, like one person do a talent thing. Um, I'm also part of a local one called Taco About It Tuesday. They do it on Tuesday at 1 o'clock Central Time, and they'll have different things. Like last month was mental health awareness. We played mental health Jeopardy, talking about things. And it's kind of a fun way of doing things. Um, and we're open, like it's people in Arkansas, but the link's a Zoom. So if anybody else wants to join, actually we have people from Michigan join. So if anyone wants to join, I can have that link sent out, uh, and we have some fun. I have a background that is a picture of tacos, that since it's Taco About It Tuesday, I'll put that up. So, but I think we've learned connection can be fun online. You don't have to be so serious. You know, so
Yes, agreed, agreed, and definitely send the link out, like for your Tuesday nights. I'm sure other people may want to be interested. Could you talk about overcoming the feelings that many people have about being self-advocates as far as being a burden or being inconvenient when using their voice? So I'm sure Angela has been in situations where, like, we needed something, we needed to really stand up for ourselves and really self-advocate, but we were afraid because we didn't
mhm.
want to inconvenience the other person, we didn't want to sound like a burden, or this was like a big deal. But so how do we overcome that? How do we overcome those insecurities or doubts about self-advocating, and really make sure that we hit home with what we need?
Can I say something? I don't think you'll ever overcome being scared. Because
True.
situations are different.
True.
You may be a little nervous, and you may be like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared, but the best thing is, if you feel so nervous to do it yourself, get someone to go with to help you, to be with you, to give you support, or to tag team, or if you can feel nervous just a little bit and you know that you can, you know, maybe just share in an elevator type deal, like 2 or 3 minutes, just say what's, you know, why something's important, what, why it matters, um, and, yeah, and leave it there. If someone wants to know, they may ask questions. And if they don't want to know, you know, don't don't push too much, but give them a little appetizer and see, if they're interested in learning more, and they'll ask questions back of you. So you know that's my suggestions. The appetizers, the elevator speech, or like, if you've ever done it. I don't know who on here may know of Toastmasters. I'm beginning to start to get involved in it and just learn how to do short 2 to 3 minute speeches, so that I can quickly tell someone why something matters, and without being, try to build my confidence up. That's the way to build your confidence is, get involved in something like Toastmasters. They'll help you understand, where you may be weak in saying like or or like, or which are what's called filler words, and the filler words can kind of, and here I am saying filler words, they can
Right.
distract from the main deal if someone's paying attention. However, it'll help you to become a better speaker, in like
That
giving
still takes such a significant level of boldness, though, Mike, to be able to
it
join
does.
Toastmasters, because you're joining a neurotypical group as a person with neurodivergence. And so
There are Toastmasters clubs that are for people with disabilities.
I didn't know
My
that.
my friend Eric Treat has one here in Little Rock that meets at the state capitol. As people with disabilities. There's others, and Toastmasters is actually geared to accepting people with disabilities too in
That's
regular club.
awesome.
So that's something that I kind of like. There was a
Yeah.
gentleman up in the one I go to that also had a little disability. So I know you think it is, but it's kind of like it gives you more confidence, I think. But if you
Once you
want
do it, yeah.
to do, and I can ask my friend Eric if he knows of other Toastmasters clubs that are, geared to people with disabilities. So
Yeah, I think there's a lot of want for inclusion and diversity nowadays, luckily. And while it can leave some of us feeling like the token, it can also leave a lot of opportunity. And knowing how to speak and what to say goes a really long way. And so often our disability can leave us like fumbling or insecure, and so I think that's a wonderful recommendation to find a group like that that can really help you hone the message that you want to give, whether it's about yourself or an organization that you're representing or whatever it may be. um I am not a public speaker, but I am, and it took quite some time for me to get to the point where I could comfortably, and I still use the word comfortably very loosely because I sweat and I like my heart races and all of that
Mhm.
still. But there's kind of a recidivism of um esteem that comes with it. So like you have to kind of get up the gumption to do it, but then once you do it, you feel like, oh, I didn't die. I actually maybe made a difference. And then you start to do a little more. So I think taking that first step, whether it's Toastmasters or a different group or whatever, could really be very impactful. So I love that you shared that.
And
That's
one thing about Toastmasters is if you want to just attend to learn more and listen, is you can do that. You may want to do that for 3, 4 times just to or more, just to learn about it, and see what it is. And if you get comfortable enough,
mm-hmm.
maybe give a short speech. Like I've done the other day, was my second time, and the one that I've been in a few Toastmasters before, but the one I'm attending on Tuesday afternoons, it's like we have what is called tabletop is only, and it was like everyone wanted to give about 2 minute speech. And my tabletop it was on advocating and talking about you know how we can speak up. And it was only about a minute, but a minute's good enough. Just to give information. You know, so it was fun.
I bet. Um, we're running close to the end of our interview recording, but I wanted to also talk to you, share with the viewers a little bit about autism. And you mentioned in your bio that you've realized it was more of a self-diagnosis of autism. And could you talk a little briefly about that experience, how you came to that self-diagnosis, anything you'd like the viewers to know?
I of course, being part of the LEN program, I've listened a few times in class about things that people with autism can face and what some of the issues that they have. And when I was growing up, I had some nervousness and some tense moments whenever it came to like noises, loud noises. It would bother me, my ears. It would, and sometimes I would not talk, or sometimes it's like it, whenever someone said something, I would get angry, and I kind of learned from there. I know that I haven't gone to be officially medically diagnosed, but as more as I've learned about some of the symptoms, and I know, if you meet one person with autism, you meet one person with autism. Not everyone has faces the same thing, and not everyone. Um, some people with autism have major issues with a lot of things, and some people may not have that many issues. So, I've learned, that it just, you know, if someone considers themselves autistic, then they are autistic. Yes, they may not have that official medical diagnosis, but I think we look at medical diagnosis in a little bit too strong of a word, um, because that puts a label on something, and you know we don't like labels, but we also want to know. So it's like, but younger people, I understand, but it helps to help with um, therapies and stuff to help them to be able, and I don't use the word overcome, but help them to live with autism and be able to communicate. And I know some people say nonverbal, it's like everyone communicates, whether it's verbally or with movement, hand or finger movements, or with electronic boards, or just type out. If someone communicates, they're verbal. So that's the way I look at it. So
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of power in identifying it as I may be on the spectrum, and therefore I could benefit from XYZ. And whether it's having earplugs because sounds are just a lot, or whether it's understanding that when you start to feel a certain way, you need to remove yourself from a situation, or, there's such a broad variety of things that autism can require or need. And I don't think that waiting on a doctor to give you that diagnosis is necessary, when in the end, just simply acknowledging that I'm a little bit different, I'm neurodivergent as opposed to neurotypical, and therefore I should stand up for myself in these moments. And that can be empowering for you as the person who needs that, but then also for others who hear you or see you say that and stand up for yourself, and then maybe take a moment and say, well, what do I need? What should I do for me? And so I love the work that you do, and I'm so grateful to see and hear you do all these wonderful things to be able to just stand out and stand up. And it's not always easy, but it has a ripple effect for sure.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
I look at it this way, if I can help one person, I've helped I've done my job, and sometimes
Absolutely.
you never know how you can help it, how you've helped them, until maybe later on when they start to speak up and lead on, So thank you, Angela.
Yeah. Is there, as we close up, is there anything that we didn't cover that you want to share, or
No, I think, we covered a lot today, and I think, I really appreciate being on your program, on your podcast, so, it's kind of fun, to just share and talk about things. I mean, I love to talk about advocacy because that's what drives my heart. That's what drives my passion. Uh, so I'd like to just, if I can help one person, you know,
Mhm.
by being on here, I've helped one person. So
Absolutely.
And that's the bottom line for advocating. Just,
yeah,
helping that one person can make that a whole transformative change for that one person.
exactly.
Just, that impact that you make. And that's constantly what we're doing, with this podcast, with what you're doing for making more, self-advocates. And so thank you. Thank you for the work that you're doing. And we so appreciate you being able to take the time and share the impactful work that you've done and how other people with disabilities can be self-advocates. So I think we've reached the end of our episode. Thank you so much for being on here, and thank you to our listeners, to our viewers. We hope you really learned some good tidbits for yourself and how we can be better advocates and how allies for people with disabilities. And again, this is A Little Perspective, season 2, and we can't wait to see you soon.
Yes. Thank you all so much. We love all of you. We hope you have the best day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.